Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. All right, we're going to finish today, Bezrat Hashem, the chapter of Klalei Haksharat Kelim, the rules of koshering our utensils, and in Bezrat Hashem, next time we will we'll look at the actual utensils in the kitchen. I'm going through those based on the rules that we went through. So he writes here in Chelek Yud Gimel, Halacha Yud Gimel, about keresh chituch, a cutting board me'etz, omi plastic. Whether you have cutting boards now, chopping boards made out of wood, plastic. He says, alul lispog te'amim. These are very much prone to absorb taste of whatever you're cutting. Because its material, what's made out of it, absorbs. More than that, also when you're cutting, you're incising on the board, you're creating grooves that allow the taste to penetrate. It's important to separate your cutting boards, to have one that is dairy and one that is meat. And if someone wants to cut food from one meat and milk, so have one that is if you want to cut tomatoes and you want to have, let's say, you put the tomatoes in a dairy dish or a meat dish, then have a parv one. Nevertheless, b'diavad, אם חתכו ירקות על קש חיתוך בשרי שניקו אותו היטב ועירבו אותם בתבשיל חלבי, התבשיל כשר. If you were to cut vegetables on a wooden chopping board, but that chopping board was cleaned very well, and that those vegetables were mixed in a dairy dish, then the tafshil is kasher b'diavad. After the fact, you don't have to worry about any meat flavor going in there. Kasher chotchim al kesh achituch machalim charifim. When you're cutting on the board, spicy, sharp foods. We spoke about this last time. Kebatzal v'shum, like onions and garlic. Mipenei charifutam, because of their spiciness and their sharpness. Ba'et shehem nitchakim el hamagash, hem alulim lispog yoter te'amim. When they're placed on the board, they're able to pull out more flavor. Ad sheyeh sovrim she'im hamagash besari, hem na'asim besarim, v'im chalavim na'asim chalavim. To the point that if the platter, the meat platter or whatever it is, the board is besari, the onion will become besari, will become meat, and if it's chalavi, then the onion will become chalavi. Lechatchila, yesh lachush leda'atam. And lechatchila, we should worry about this shita, that the onion and the garlic and the spicy peppers have the ability to pull much stronger than other foods. V'imchatchu batzal al keresh chituch chalavi naki, and that if you were to cut onions on a dairy cutting board, and then accidentally was mixed in a meat dish, and you didn't have 60 times the food based on the onion that you cut, then you should technically prohibit this dish that you cooked, because you've basically put in dairy onion, milk onions into this meat dish, and you don't have 60 times. So that's lechatchila the way we should follow when dealing with onions and garlic. In times of pressing need, if you're sure that you're not going to taste the dairy, the milk that was absorbed in the onion, we could be machshir the pot of food that you made. Shat adchak usually means you made a very, very large amount of food. We're not talking about a small little thing where it's easily could be made again, or you have guests and whatnot, and you're really stuck for a situation. You found out that the onions that you put at the bottom of your pot roast that was cooking for 5 hours was on a dairy cutting board, and b'diavad we could allow it. But if it's something very small that will take you 10 minutes to make another dish, then maybe we shouldn't. That's not called shat adchak. Magash chituch mizechuchit o mimatechet, a glass cutting board or a metal cutting board, eno bolea al pole ta'amim, does not absorb or emit taste. V'lachen afilu imu besari o chalavi, even if it's meat or milk, im nuka karaui, if it's cleaned properly, like we've been saying all in the past, efshar lishtamesh bo lechituch machale parve, v'afilu hem charifim avur amin hasheni. You're allowed. You can put their par foods, even if it's charif, metal and glass cutting boards don't have that ability to emit the taste like the wooden ones and the plastic ones do. Okay, his last piece over here, it speaks about mixing spoons, which is often could be problems. Asur le'arveb tafshil besari bekaf matechet chalavit. You're not allowed to mix a meat stew or a meat dish with a metal dairy knife, a dairy spoon. V'chen asur le'arvev tavshil chalavi bekaf matechet besarit. And you're also not allowed to mix a dairy dish with a meat metal spoon. Ta'ave airev, if he made a mistake and he did so, im hakaf hayta nekiya, if the spoon was clean, hatavshil kasher, we could say that the tafshil is kasher, is kosher. Hoil ve'akaf ena polet te'amim, because like we said, nowadays the metal we don't have does not emit any taste. Ulam, however, hakaf tzricha hachshara be'agala. We have to kosher now the spoon, and that is koshered with hagala, which is the process of dipping into boiling water, which we're going to speak more about, in the next section. Because you're using it on a dish that is sitting on the fire cooking. Because this spoon was used for hot dairy, hot milk, and as well for hot meat. Asur le'arev bekaf chalavit tavshil parve shemevushal besir besari. You're not allowed to mix a dairy spoon, a parve dish that is cooked in a meat pot. Okay, so you have 3 items here. So you're making mashed potatoes, okay, parve mashed potatoes in a meat pot, and you're using a dairy spoon. Okay, you can't do so. V'chen asur le'arev. We spoke about that you could cook the mashed potatoes itself is not a problem. Okay, to cook in that's not barnat heter. We spoke about that yesterday. But to take a dairy spoon and to stir the mashed potatoes, which are parve, but they're being cooked in a meat pot, you can't do. V'chen asur le'arev bekaf besarit tavshil parve shemushal besir chalavi. Same as the opposite. Okay, it's a dairy pot with mashed potatoes. You can't take a meat spoon. Aval im ta'ave irev, if you made a mistake, hatavshil kasher, the tavshil is kosher. Ve'akaf ena tzricha hachshara. But in this case, the spoon does not require koshering because it wasn't stirring its opposite min, the opposite type. It was just stirring something parv. Sir matechet shemevashlim bo basar, a metal pot that you're cooking meat. V'nafal chalav al defanotav mibachutz, and a little bit of milk falls on the your son or daughter's pouring cereal. It splashes, and the milk lands on the sides of the pot, on the walls of the pot, not inside, on the wall, on the sides. Hatavshila besari kasher, your meat that's in your pot is kosher. Ve'asir tzarich hachshara be'agala, but the pot now needs to be koshered, okay, with hagala. Nishpach rotev taref rotach arsir matechet o zechuchit kasher kar. What happens if you have? And by the way, the reason for the previous halacha is because the pot in itself is hot and cooking. Okay, it's on the stove. So therefore, even if milk touches it, you have to kosher the pot. Now your food is still kosher because you drop a milk. You got side.
Wow.
Okay, you got to kosher because it's on the thing. Now, Nishpach rotev taref, his last halacha says, if treif sauce that is hot falls or spills al sir matechet o zechuchit kasher kar, it falls on a cold metal or glass pot, and tzorech leachshir et kulo be'agala, you don't need to kosher the whole thing be'hagala, because that again that the pot itself wasn't hot. אלא די להכשירו על ידי עירוי של מים רותחים על המקום שעליו נשפך הרוטב הטרף. You can kosher it through pouring hot water on the spot that the treif rotev sauce landed on. Because the pot itself was cold and you just had a little bit of sauce that landed in this one little area, so you don't have to dip the whole thing in boiling water, just pour boiling water on that spot. Chalav roteach al sir matechet o zechuchit besari kar. If you have boiling milk that fell on a metal pot or a glass pot that was cold, the same law would apply, that just by taking hot water and pouring it on the place that it fell, that would be enough to kosher. So B'ezrat Hashem, next time we'll continue with some more explanation about Hagala and Libun and so on and so forth, to more specific cases in koshering items in our kitchen. Okay.